They say the brain makes decisions in milliseconds. Fight or flight, guilt or innocence, black or white. He didn't run, didn't resist, didn't even blink. 17-year-old Tyrese Miles was walking home from a late shift at Burger Depot. Hoodie up, headphones in, one hand gripping his backpack strap, the other holding a bag of cold fries. It was 9:46 p.m. when the first cruiser rolled up behind him. 9:47 when the second joined. By 9:49, Tyrese was face down on the pavement, bleeding, motionless. No warning, no questions. Just 4 words on the police report. He fit the description. His mother was brushing her teeth when she got the call. The kind that makes time stop. That shatters everything ordinary. They didn't say he was dead, but they didn't say he was alive either. The actual suspect was 6 feet 2 inches. Tyrese was barely 5 feet 9 inches. The suspect had neck tattoos. Tyrese had asthma inhaler and a church choir ribbon in his back pocket. The officers, they never saw his face, only the hoodie and the skin beneath it. A nearby security camera, motion triggered, caught it all. And what it showed was far worse than the report. Tyrese wasn't resisting. He was reaching for his student ID. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories. Tyrese wasn't a thug. He was a baritone in the church choir, a self-taught coder, a kid who once fixed his neighbor's broken microwave using parts from an old PlayStation. He dreamed of being an engineer, not to get rich, but to build something that made sense in a world that didn't. He didn't like crowds, didn't like confrontation. He was quiet, kind, the kind of teenager who apologized when someone else bumped into him. He worked part-time at Burger Depot, closed mostly at nights, always walked home, took the same route, wore the same hoodie. Denise Miles raised him alone. 2 jobs, no savings, but a full heart and a fridge always stocked with his favorite grape soda. She'd made him promise, if he ever got stopped, just keep your hands visible. Say yes, sir. Don't make sudden moves. Don't be a statistic. That night, he tried, but the officers never saw his face, just the hoodie and the skin beneath it. Tyrese had his earbuds in, one hand on his backpack strap, the other holding a paper bag with leftover fries. The cruiser slowed. Lights didn't flash. Doors didn't open at first. He turned around slightly. That was enough. By the time he said, "I'm reaching for my ID," the trigger had already been pulled. 3 times. Blood pooled beneath his rib cage, his hand still gripping the corner of his wallet. The footage leaked 3 days later. The city caught fire. The department scrambled. The chief disappeared from the press circuit. And in the middle of it all, a single mother standing alone in front of microphones she never asked for, saying, "They saw a suspect. I saw my son." What happened next wasn't justice. It was damage control. Before the badge, before the headlines, before the lie, there was a call. Possible suspects seen near 5th and Ash, and 2 officers who made a decision that would change a city. When the footage dropped, it hit social media like wildfire. Tyrese never reached for a weapon, only his wallet. The public erupted. Protests, hashtags, candlelight vigils outside the courthouse. But inside, silence. Internal Affairs launched a review. The officers were placed on paid leave. The press release used sterile words like incident and pending. They wouldn't even say his name. His mother, Denise, barely slept. Every night she sat in his room, lights still on, bed still made. The sound of the shot haunted her like a phantom heartbeat. She didn't want revenge. She wanted truth. 7 days later, someone knocked on her door. A man in a brown hoodie, eyes hidden under a cap. He didn't speak at first, just handed her a USB drive and whispered, "They missed a camera." The footage came from a laundromat across the street. Angle was clearer, sound was sharper, and what it showed was damning. The officer had his weapon drawn before stepping out of the car. Tyrese said, "I'm reaching for my ID," 3 times, and then the shot. There was no threat, only panic and a decision already made before they even saw his face. It should have ended right there. charges, arrest, accountability. But instead, the department called the footage unauthorized. They tried to discredit the witness, claimed it was edited, threatened Denise with legal action for distributing sensitive material. But truth has teeth, and when a civil rights attorney took the case, he exposed not just a shooting, but a history of complaints buried, a falsified report, and a missing page from Tyrese's case file. The courtroom was colder than expected, not in temperature, but in tone. Sterile walls, polished benches, and a silence that clung to the air like tension before a storm. Tyrese's mother sat in the front row. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face didn't. She wasn't here to cry. She was here to finish what they started. The officers showed up in Navy suits, no badges, no remorse, just well-paid lawyers and the smell of self-preservation. The younger one even laughed softly during opening arguments. Laughed softly, like this was just paperwork, like a kid hadn't bled out on the sidewalk. The prosecutor laid it out with surgical precision. The flawed dispatch, the missing body cam footage, the audio logs that conveniently cut out at 9:48 p.m. And of course, the laundromat footage, played once, then again in slow motion. The entire room watched as Tyrese raised his hands and was dropped in a flash of smoke and recoil. Denise didn't cry, but her jaw clenched so tight, a reporter said later you could hear her teeth grinding. This wasn't grief anymore. This was war. But the moment that changed everything came from someone nobody expected. Detective Marla Reyes, veteran, decorated, and a woman who'd been silent too long. She cleared her throat on the stand, looked directly at the defense table and said, "This wasn't an accident. We were trained to stop first, not shoot first." A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Even the judge's gavel couldn't kill it. Reyes admitted she saw the internal report days after the shooting, knew it had been altered, filed her own complaint internally and was told to stand down. Her voice cracked just once. "If I had said something sooner, maybe it wouldn't happen again." You could hear Denise sob for the first time, not out of pain, but because finally, someone else saw her son as human. But just as hope cracked the courtroom open, the defense struck back. They tried to smear Tyrese, pulled up a Facebook post where he'd made a joke about running from cops. They called it proof of mindset. His friend in the back row shouted, "That was a meme!" Bailiffs dragged him out, and the judge recessed the trial early. Outside, the city waited. Inside, the jury deliberated. Denise stood by the courthouse steps, arms folded, reporters swarming her. One asked, "What do you want most right now?" She looked into the cameras, voice calm, eyes fire. "I don't want a conviction. I want an answer to one question. Why does my son's skin color keep getting people killed before they even ask for a name?" She turned and walked away. The jury room light was still on. 11 hours, 14 people, one truth, still too heavy to carry. Inside that courthouse, justice was being measured, not by truth, but by comfort. And out in the hallway, Denise paced in silence, as if movement could protect her from the answers she already feared. The night before the verdict, someone slipped an envelope under her hotel room door. No return address, just one word: "Sorry." Inside, a printed email. From the precinct's internal server, a supervisor had flagged Officer Daniels, the shooter, for excessive force. 3 times. The cases never made it past review. They knew. They always knew. Tyrese didn't die because of a mistake. He died because a man with a badge had a history, and a department with a secret had no reason to stop him. At 10:16 a.m., the jury returned. Everyone rose. The judge looked over his glasses with that expression judges wear when they already know they'll need a security escort later. On the charge of involuntary manslaughter, we find the defendant not guilty. Silence, the kind that screams. On the charge of official misconduct, guilty. 1 count, a $1,000 fine, no jail time, no conviction on record. Denise didn't cry. Not this time. She laughed. One short, hollow laugh, sharp enough to cut glass. The kind of laugh mothers give when the system proves it doesn't just fail, it mocks. Tyrese's best friend Marcus, punched a wall on the way out. His cousin collapsed in the hallway screaming, "What else do we have to do?" The district attorney avoided reporters. And the officer, he walked out smiling. But this story wasn't over, because someone else was watching. A federal agent in the back row. Plain clothes, clean notepad. He left before the verdict was read. And 3 weeks later, that same officer was arrested, not for the shooting, but for evidence tampering in an unrelated case. That arrest, it opened a door the department had spent years trying to keep shut. Denise never got justice in court, but she got something better. She got leverage, a civil suit, a federal probe, and a chance to drag every secret into the daylight. "You didn't just kill my son," she said in a press conference. "You built an entire system that made it possible. And now, I'm burning it down." Some people get justice. Others just get tired of waiting, tired of praying, tired of screaming into systems that were designed never to listen. But sometimes, someone cracks, and that crack lets all the light in. Denise arrived alone. Same hoodie Tyrese used to wear, same calm fire in her chest. Lot 42 was empty, until it wasn't. A car pulled up, engine still running. Out stepped Detective Marla Reyes, wearing her old badge turned backward on a lanyard. She didn't hug, didn't smile, just said, "I should have done this sooner." She opened the trunk, one black duffel bag, one manila envelope, 2 decades of buried truth. Reyes had joined the force with hope, fresh out of the academy, believed in service, believed in reform, believed in the badge. But belief dies slowly when you watch complaints vanish, when you see officers reassigned after beatings, when the same names keep showing up in internal memos, but never in court, and when Tyrese was killed and the report said non-compliant movement. She knew. It was a script, she told Denise. We were trained to write it that way. There were 227 pages, not just about Tyrese, but 17 other boys. Different names, same ending. All fit the description. All matched suspect profile. All ended up dead, maimed, or disappeared in custody. One was shot in the back 6 times. Another died after being restrained for resistance in a stairwell. Another simply vanished. No footage, no statement. Just a mother who still sets his plate at dinner. Inside the folder was a memo, top level, marked "Do Not Distribute," signed off by 3 lieutenants. The subject line? Predictive Enforcement Zones, Behavior Protocol Adjustment. The contents were a blueprint for racial profiling. It didn't say black, but it didn't have to. No slurs, no blunt language. Just algorithm-fed maps and statistical justification for targeting high-risk behavioral zones. Translation? Target the black neighborhood first. Ask questions later, or not at all. Denise didn't cry. Not this time. She sat in silence, reading every line, page after page, like a mother reading her son's obituary, rewritten over and over, just with different names. She didn't go to the press, didn't shout on the steps of City Hall. She went to Washington, Department of Justice, civil rights attorneys, investigators who weren't afraid of unions and small-town shields. And within 6 weeks, the precinct was raided, hard drives seized, phones taken, files pulled out of drawers officers swore didn't exist. Officer Daniels, who had walked free after the state trial, was arrested again, but not for killing Tyrese. This time he was charged with tampering with evidence in a 2018 brutality case. One where a different teen, 17, black, no record, ended up in ICU. You know what linked both cases? The same line. He fit the description. More arrests followed. 2 lieutenants resigned before they could be subpoenaed. One moved states. Internal affairs turned on its own. And all of it, from the raids to the indictments, to the memo that never should have existed, started with that single bag in Reyes's trunk and a mother who refused to stop grieving loud. Denise stood outside Tyrese's old high school months later. Same building, new mural on the wall. It was her son, painted in broad strokes, eyes soft, smile calm, head slightly tilted, like he knew they were still watching. She placed a single flower on the steps, looked at the sky, and whispered, "You weren't the first, but you damn sure were the last. And now, they'll remember your name." This isn't just a story about one shooting. It's about systems that expect to never be questioned. But now they are. And behind every report, behind every leaked file, is a name. Don't let them become statistics. Not again. Not this time. If you were thrilled and want more of this intriguing stories, leave a comment. I'm reading them all. This is Whispered Crimes, where every crime leaves a whisper.